Every Italian family has their own version of making a pasta sauce with tomatoes and meat. I'm Mara from Joyful Hostess, and today I'm going to be showing you my family's secrets to making a super delicious pasta sauce using meat and tomatoes. So I've got my ingredients ready, I've got my apron on, I've got the pot on the stove all ready to go. Are you ready to get cooking? Let's go. We've got our ingredients here, and usually when I make this sauce, I tend to make it in big batches because it freezes so well, which makes it really easy if I want to host, a simple pasta dinner party. Then I've got the sauce all ready to go. Or it's also really nice for a simple weeknight meal. Okay, one other thing that I just want to simply mention is that it kind of goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways, is that if you start with quality ingredients, you're definitely going to get a better quality sauce. So everything from the olive oil to the herbs to the meat that you use. The other nice thing about sauce making is that while today I'm going to be showing you the basics and how we make it, you can feel free to have fun and substitute with things that you like. So for instance, if you don't like it really garlicky, which I'm a big fan of garlic, so there's lots of garlic in my sauce, you can definitely scale back the garlic. Or maybe you're not a beef person, you don't like ground beef, then you can substitute, ground pork or ground turkey. I mean, you can definitely customize this to make it your own. Let's head over to the stove and get cooking. First things first, we're gonna drizzle some olive oil in the pan. And here it's about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. Don't worry, I will have all the measurements for you in the comments below. Next, we add 3 cloves of garlic that I've sliced relatively thin. Next, we add the chopped onion. So now I'm going to turn the burner on to medium. And I like to give this a little bit of a head start. I feel like once it fries a little bit, it flavors the olive oil. And when that's nice and flavored, that's when I add the meat to brown. So we're going to let the heat do its magic and come back. It is starting to smell really fragrant right now. The onions have softened up a bit, and so has the garlic. So now it's time to add the ground beef. Be sure to break it up at this stage. I want as much of the beef kind of touching the pan so that we can get it lightly browned before we move on to the next part. At this point too is where I'm going to add a pinch or 2 of kosher salt and then keep that browning. Okay, so the meat looks just about done. A little note here, this is a little tip. I do not cook the meat all the way because it's going to sit in the tomatoes and it's going to simmer for the next 3 to 4 hours. So I want it to finish cooking in the sauce, and that way it kind of releases that richness into it, and the meat also doesn't become hard little clumps inside the sauce. It all kind of stays soft. At this point, it's time to add tomatoes. So I've got here a can of diced tomatoes and some strained tomatoes or crushed tomatoes. I like to put a mix in. I like a sauce, especially when there's meat in it, that has some chunks of tomato. I think that just works really nicely together. So we're going to give this a good stir. Oh my gosh, it smells amazing. Okay, are you ready for one more tip? I like to add about a 1/2 cup of water to this. Now the reason is that this is going to simmer, like I said, for 3 to 4 hours. And by adding the water, I want the water to evaporate so that it leaves the tomatoes and all the flavors that I'm going to put in this sauce to condense instead of, the water that was in the tomato can and the tomato paste evaporating. It helps with the consistency and helps to condense the flavors. So now that we've added the tomatoes, before we set this to simmer, this is the time to add the dried herbs. In my sauce, in our family sauce, we tend to use a mix of dried herbs and fresh herbs. So the dried herbs, if you're using them, you've got to put them in the beginning for a couple of reasons. One, it lets the herbs soften up because nobody wants to be chomping on crunchy dried herbs. And the second thing is that it really allows the flavors of those dried herbs to permeate like throughout your whole sauce. So I like to use a couple of bay leaves, secret ingredient. Not a lot of people know that goes in a meat sauce. It just helps to make the flavor richer. And then also we have here a mix of Italian seasoning. So it's got in it dried basil, oregano, parsley, and I think it's got some rosemary in it as well. So we're gonna sprinkle that in. We're gonna give that a good mix, and we're gonna set it to the back of the stove on the simmer for a couple of hours. Now, there are some people who will tell you that you need to add a little bit of sugar to your pasta sauce, and those people are wrong. No, you don't need to add sugar to your pasta sauce. Believe me, it's going to be delicious just the way it is. No sugar. No. Be sure to check on your sauce occasionally as it's simmering. I like to give it a good stir every half hour or so, just to be sure that nothing's burning and that the sauce is turning out exactly how I want it to. So the fresh herbs are going to make their appearance at the end of our sauce making process because we want to preserve the flavors of the basil that we're going to be adding, and putting it in at the end helps brighten up the sauce a little bit because the basil will lend itself that lemon peppery kind of flavor to it and just help brighten the whole sauce. Okay, so we're about halfway through the cooking time, and now is the time when I like to give it a little taste test and see if I need to adjust anything. Sometimes I might need more salt, or maybe the garlic flavor is not coming through enough, and that's at that point I might add a little bit of garlic powder, or maybe some additional dried herbs because I want it to be a little bit more flavorful. Let's try. It's gonna be good. Needs just a touch more salt. Our sauce has been simmering away for the last 4 hours, and now it's time to add the final step, which is the fresh basil. Remember how I said the fresh herbs go in at the end to keep their flavor and just give it a boost? And one of the easiest way that I find to add fresh herbs is by using kitchen shears and just giving them a chop. So in this case, I'm adding, there's about 8 or so basil leaves to this. I'm going to give that a stir, and then in about 10 minutes, this is going to be ready to serve. Well, there you have it, my friends. I shared with you our family's secrets to making a good meat sauce. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, or let me know what's your spin on what makes a really good meat sauce. I'm always interested to hear how other families make it. Cheers, my friends. May all your hours be happy ones, and buon appetito. If you like what you saw here, be sure to hit like and subscribe. I upload videos every Friday to help make you a more confident host. Everything from cocktails to recipes to DIYs, and even all my best party planning tips and tricks. Can't wait to see you here next Friday. Cheers!